team, I would like to thank you for your joining this afternoon's webinar. This webinar is really to present some of the new features on the EO4SD lab, which are there to support your activities on the platform. So we'll start off with some slides just to give a bit of a background, and then we can basically go through the actual webinar itself. So in terms of the objective of the webinar is to basically showcase how the EO4SD lab itself can allow you to create new geospatial content for analysis and sharing. So to achieve that, we will go through different elements of the EO4SD lab itself. But first, we're going to provide a project summary and then do an overview of the EO4SD lab services portfolio and some of the features. And then we're going to explore one of the major new features recently released, which is called the EO Wiki, which allows you to explore, view, and share your generated geospatial information. And then we will showcase some examples of geospatial products and content that has been created within the EO Wiki. And then we will also look at another tool, which is the project monitoring tool, which allows you to view a time series of data through the platform. And then there will be space at the end of the presentation for feedback, comments, and questions with regards to the EO4SD lab itself. So in terms of the EO4SD lab itself, I think most of you are probably familiar with the project, but this is part of ESA's Earth Observation for Sustainable Development Initiative, which has been ongoing since 2008. And the core objective is to promote, encourage the uptake of Earth observation data, such as provided through the Sentinel missions by the development assistance sector. And primarily the EO4SD lab will achieve that by providing an online portal which provides you access with a variety of services, information, data products, and tools for the generation of geospatial content and the analysis of geospatial content. One thing about the lab, it complements other initiatives by giving users the power to basically do bespoke analysis or data creation. So a big part of the EO4SD lab itself is the provision of various on-demand and systematic processing services, which allow you to set up a processing on a particular project location or study site, either as a single go or on a systematic approach, which allows you to utilize the extensive archives of satellite Earth observation data for your particular study sites. And within that project, we will be running some real-world service pilots, which some of you will be familiar with, to showcase the potential of the lab. So the project started last October time, and the first release of the platform was Q2 2020. We're currently on version 1.8. And the plan is over the next few months, we will have further improvements to the platforms driven by feedback gathered from people like yourselves, either gathered directly or gathered in the course of this session to basically expand and improve the platform as much as we can to basically make it a highly useful and point of reference and a data processing engine. So one thing about the EO4SD lab is that we are aware that there's a wide variety of users with different levels of expertise within the user community that we would like to reach. So we have devised the EO4SD lab within different types of elements, shall we say, which allow you to basically meet the needs of the users. We will demonstrate these features today, but I think it's useful to have this slide to show how we would like to approach meeting those needs. So one thing we have is the EO Wiki, which we'll be showcasing today, which is basically a way for you to basically access previously generated geospatial content, be it in the form of data layers, maps, or documents, and easily share that with your peers and other bodies. Then for more advanced users, who are more technically minded, who would rather like to actually create new geospatial content themselves, then they can either use the EO GeoWizard or the EO Basket, which allows you to basically find processing services to create the new geospatial content, and also other services which would let you do analysis of that content. And then finally, for the expert users or the very technically minded users, there is the EO processor element, which allows you to basically build your own services, which you can then share with your peers or other people. So it allows you to basically design a processing engine or a processing activity, which you can basically drive the geospatial content that is most relevant to yourself. So with that in mind, I think I would like to step across to bring in Norman from Jvil, who will basically talk about the EO GeoWizard, EO Basket, and EO Processor. So Norman, can I pass the hand over to you?
Yes, thank you. So can everybody hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, you should be seeing the website, the EO4SD Lab website. Is that the screen that I'm sharing right now? Clive, if you could confirm that.
Yes, I confirm that.
All right, okay, so on this website, I mean, Clive introduced now the concept of this project. We have this project website, and I want to specifically spend the next 10 minutes to explain to you a little bit about the services that we have, demonstrate the service portfolio, which we are continuously expanding, and then move into the portal to demonstrate the availability of these services and how to execute one, and also talk a little bit about the EO processor. The important part is that all of this is designed and continuously developed based on your feedback. So if I go to the service and data portfolio, we have a list of services that we've recently grouped into different categories or domains. So you can browse through these. You have the name of the service and the description and what kind of data it can ingest. And some of the services can actually ingest a little bit more data, but for the time being, this is the data that we currently host on the platform, and it produces different kinds of outputs. So here we have visualization services where you can combine different images or different bands. We have raster, the coin service, and the combi service. They have actually been available from the start, so most of you will be familiar with those. Some of you have already tried that, and we encourage you to try all of the services and see what benefit they bring to your projects. We have cloud-free composites. We have true color images. We can create time series of true color images. We have an active fire service that we will demonstrate a little bit later. We have agricultural services too. So we can generate bottom of atmosphere images. So we reduce or remove the atmospheric interference from the images. If you want a snapshot, again, the cloud-free is listed here too because it's important for agricultural monitoring. We have a service for dynamic crop masking and also crop type mapping, and several others. I'm not going to go through all the services, but I would like to encourage you to go to this list. There are updates every now and then. Soil moisture recently was added to this, and this is currently a service that is allows you to view sample data, and in a month or two will become operational so that you can generate your own high-resolution soil moisture, and so on and so forth. Same for land cover and land cover changes. And finally, the vegetation monitoring and water, forestry and water domains are available too. Some of these services, some of you have already used in the past. Sometimes there are improvements to the services, but again, we also expand the service portfolio based on the input that we get from you. Now, if we look at the portal, if I click on the portal, you're asked to sign in. If that works now, where is it? Just a moment, it should be loading in a second. There we are. Okay, this is the portal. We have the Explorer tab, which is basically the EO basket component. Here you can execute services, and the services are listed here. Those are all the services that we just had a look at on the website. There are a total of 3 pages of services here. You can search for individual services if you type something up here and you get a short list of that. So NDVI services is included in these 3 services. You can look for satellite data. The process is usually you look for satellite data, you feed a given service that you want with that satellite data, and then you execute it, and then you're informed when the job is finished. For demonstration purposes, I thought I would run a service that runs fairly quickly, and I would like to demonstrate this with a simple NDVI service. So I type NDVI, select one of the NDVI services. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to suggest an area for which we would like to try this? This is something that will run about 10 to 20 minutes. So later on during the webinar, or toward the end of the webinar, we will get back to this job and actually have a look at the results. So is there anyone who would like to suggest an area of interest that we should process, so that you that I don't pick something that we've assessed as something that is easy to process? If so, and you want to write this, please. Uganda? Okay, Uganda it is. There we are. So I search for satellite data, Sentinel-2 in this case. I define the area of interest, roughly Uganda. And I don't change anything for the dates because I want the most recent data. And I should be getting a number of results. So quite a few. Oops. I hope I'm not moving too quickly. So now I go to the NDVI service, and it requires input. So I select the scenes that are actually landlocked. Just select those for demonstration. I drag them in here. I see that all the scenes have been selected as input. I give this a name, so I call this NDVI Uganda. This is from, these are fairly recent scenes. This is from the 11th of October, so from 3 days ago. The scenes are fairly recently. So we're creating an NDVI image for all these scenes for October 2020. So I'll write that down, 10/2020. And I just click on launch, confirm that I want to execute this, and I get my message that the job has started, and I can check my job here, and it says executed by me. This is actually a collection of jobs, so I can expand that, and I see that some of them are pending, and 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have already started. So it's currently processing 4 scenes simultaneously, and the others will be processed following that. So later on during this webinar, we get back to this job. This is the job ID 8712 with the name that I specified, NDVI Uganda 1020. And you will see toward the end, you have the entire data set for a very large area. And I could process all of Uganda now, but I just selected, I think, 9 scenes now, which covers the majority of the land. So that's the standard services. And I want to briefly talk about the developer as well. That's the EO processor component that Clive mentioned in his presentation. So we have encouraged the users to define their own workflows and their own processes. And sometimes that requires adaptation of existing services. So we can take an existing service, and this is not just something that we can do. This is something that all users can do, and we support them in doing that. They can define their own services, upload their own scripts, be it an R script or a Python script, write their own code and run that on the data that we host through this platform. And one use case is, and I'm going to switch to some images here. I hope you can see this. Do you see this when I move this in there, or does it appear as a? Not yet. As a gray. Okay, question is if I can toggle the screen that is shared. Apparently not. Well, then I will describe this. There's one use case, one user who wants NDVI time series, but over several years, and they don't just want 100, 200, 300 individual NDVI images. They want to combine these time series into a single image that produces a trend analysis. So they want to know, has a certain pixel by pixel, has this area changed over the years? Has it been become greener or less green over time? And if so, by how much? And in order to do this, we have this service that creates NDVI, but it does that one by one. So we have created several individual services that allow the users to batch execute a whole series of NDVIs, clip the clouds, that's this service here, GWL clip clouds for indices. Then it clips all the clouds out. Then it calculates a monthly means for every month. So you have one image per month, so 12 images per year. And then it performs a trend analysis. These are all individual services that can be individually triggered now. And we have also combined them into a workflow called GIZ workflow. Those of you who are familiar with this, this request will know why it's called that. So in this GIZ workflow, this is made available as a service, and this combines all the previous components. So this is a custom-made service specifically tailored by the user. We've done this for the user now in this case, but all users are invited to do this themselves, and they have the tools here to develop their own services, if they've got technical experts who can program that, of course. So here's a tailor-made workflow that is then becomes available as a service and can be executed from start to finish, processing all these individual results. And yeah, so this is the EO basket component and the EO processor component. And with that, I will hand on to Alessandro, unless there are any specific questions you have for this section now. Otherwise, we get back to me later for a review of the job and the job outputs. Are there any questions for me at this point? Otherwise, I'll hand on to my colleague. Okay, then Alessandro, I'll give the floor to you, and I stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Norman. Okay, can you see my screen? And can you hear me fine? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm happy really to present you a new component that we have integrated in this platform recently, and we have announced it during our with our notification to the user. And this component is the EO Wiki. The objective of the EO Wiki is to, first of all, simplify access to data and contents related to Earth observation in the contents of the EO4SD lab. The component is available also to anonymous users, which after a landing page are able already to see contents which are being public available for all of them. Of course, those data, the first thing that we have done is to populate, for example, the document area, which is also accessible by here on top, with all the user manual of the services. These are were also available in the web page that Norman showed before, but here you have the possibility also to search for them in an easier way, we believe that this can simplify user lives, but also enables user to upload documents on the platform. Once the user is signing, the user will see a completely different numbers, as you can see here now. Why this? Because this component is synchronized with the product which are generated on the platform, and enables user to create contents from the product that he has generated. The idea is that, of course, each user, the idea of the architecture behind is that each user is the owner of the content that he generates on the platform, and then he can use this additional component to combine this layer and to them with not which are restricted, so with a particular group of user. Just to give you an example of how to create contents, so the products which are generated in the platform are called layers in this component, while the higher level information products are called maps. We have created some example maps which I will show you later, but first of all, like for example, the one which are available here. And after this, I will show you how to create one. So one of the things that we have created as a sample of, it's for example, these maps, which integrate different service output. I will go show you one, which is, for example, the Beirut explosion Agus map 2020. This is a preview of the metadata of the data which are available in this particular map. I can see an abstract, I can see some additional metadata layer related to this map, to this content, and I can also access the map. We have all heard about this events in Beirut that this summer has created a huge explosion in the port of Beirut, and what we can see here is how the different acquisition of Sentinel-2 basically show the evolution in time from the port, how it was before, but also how it happened after the explosion. We also have exploited additional services on the platform to create additional content on this. In particular, we have processed some SAR image, one before the explosion and the other one after the explosion, using the service which is called Coin, which and here you can have on the left the different layers which are associated to this output product. This is the first image which was acquired before the explosion. Then there is the second acquisition, which was acquired after the explosion. And here we can see already in the third map, a coherence map of the two images, which shows how, even though due to the explosion, the area which is white, which means that they have high coherence, and the area which is black, which means that the images has low coherence. And then there is other combination of band which highlight the area which was affected by the explosion thanks to a different type of band combination. Another example of content that we have created for this, it's for example, let's go maybe Chernobyl fire, yeah. So we have run in this case the service which is called Barn Area, which basically combine one image pre and post fire, generate some, process some MBR over the two images and then generate some mask in the area which was affected here. Again, here on the left, I have the possibility to hide the different layer and to see the effect of the trend of the MBR in this image. Now I will just give you a quick overview of how to create contents on the map, and I will not go in the detail of, but again, as anticipated by Norman, this is what we call a preliminary version that we can integrate and evolve in time, and absolutely relevant for us, your feedback to make sure that our effort goes in the direction of your need. So here in the layer tab, I can have a look to all the layers which my account has created, plus layers which are shared publicly or shared with me. In particular, I can have a look to the one which has been created for, these are related to the water frequency service. And for example, I want to create a map that shows how two different acquisitions are highlights the different water frequency to different timeline. So I just press the plus button of the two files that I want to add into the map. I will press the button create a map. And then I have full control here of, as before, of the different layers. Of course, is it possible to visualize the legend which is associated to those layers? I can add some additional layer also from here by accessing to my catalog of data, which is synchronized as well within the platform. And I can play a bit with the transparency and opacity. And when I select, for example, a layer, I have also the possibility to create some dedicated widget for it. At the moment, the one which is, I would say, used in this context is a text one, but we are looking forward for use case to exploit also chart and table. And here I can create some content with also including pictures, and here, and when this is created, you can see that the widget is here, and I can hide or view that. And after this, I have the possibility to save this with some additional name. So this is a test map, and here's some description. Oops. Once the image is saved, it is available into the maps. So after this, I can edit the metadata. I can highlight the tumbles, add additional control, but most important, I can change the permission to this map and decide who is able to view it, who is able to download it, who is able to contribute to this map and change the metadata, and who can update the map by itself. by default, every time that a map is created, is visible to anyone, but it's something that it's important to share. But if you prefer a different configuration, please share that with us. Having stated that, unless there is any specific question to me, I will pass the ball to Alexander, who will show you additional content which we have created for users with the platform, and that's it on my side.
Thanks, Alessandro. We'll permit Lena to join again and share my screen. Alessandro, can you confirm that you can see my screen and also hear, understand me clearly?
Absolutely, I do confirm.
Perfect. All right. So I will present some selected output of platform services we chose and we think that might be useful to you. And I will also explain the potentials of the same. I will start with the cloud-free composites. I have an example from the Netherlands there. You might need a true color image of an area you're interested in to, for example, see the extent of agricultural fields, or to have a time series of a motorway construction, for example, in Brazil. And as you can see here, for example, there's a lot of clouds in there, but you need that image. So this is the image you usually can acquire, which is an L1C. Well, for free, but this is usually the one you get. And this is a first step with the Send2Agri service. You can basically erase all the atmospheric disturbances and do a atmospheric correction. This would be this output here then. So it's already an improvement. The colors are a lot brighter. And as a second step, there is the Send2Agri cloud-free composite service, which will take a lot of other images from of the same tile, which are from different points of time, and aggregate this to one image, so the clouds are erased. It will look like this in the end. So in the end, you will have a picture like this of a certain time, but without the clouds. And this may be especially important for regions like in the tropics, where there's usually quite a bit of cloud cover, or also during some special seasons like fall or springtime, where there's a lot of rain, or the weather is not as good and there's a lot of cloud cover. I want to continue to the basic land cover service, a service produced by GeoWill. This is a generic service, so that's the reason why it's called basic land cover. Imagine you're working at a statistical agency, and you need statistics on the extent of some land cover classes like forest or grassland or an urban area. And this service will help you produce a map, a wall-to-wall map of a entire tile, or you can also process several tiles. So of a very large area, like a whole country or a federal state. And it will give you an output of a map with 9 classes. This is a service which is very quick and easy to handle. So
Alexander, sorry, I'm not sure if it's only me, but could you please check your microphone position?
Is it too loud or?
No, now it's perfect. Yes, before it was there was a bit of good noise in the background. Sorry.
Okay.
Just move it away from your mouth because we can hear your breath.
Okay, okay.
Too close to the mouth, yes.
Better now?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So yes, this is a service especially good for for large areas. As I said, it's a generic land cover service, so it's less suitable for small areas or detecting particular features in an area, because it's based on, or it takes global reference data. So there are some limitations in terms of accuracy, but it will give you a general good idea of a large area, what land cover classes you can find. And this is an example from Tajikistan. So this is the capital Dushanbe, where you can see it's loading still. You have the style file, that the red is mostly sealed area, and there's a lot of cropland in the background or around there. You can move the layer to less visible. It's not this one. There you can see that there's where the area is yellow, where it says cropland, that there's actually a lot of cropland around the capital city. So 10 classes, which were chosen because those are the classes which will cover the entire world. So as I said, this is not as well suited for very specific land cover detections in special ecozones or regions, but more a generic one. And from this one, at the end, you can retrieve information on, for example, how many hectares of that chosen tile of your chosen area of interest is, for example, forest or sealed area. If we want, for example, more specific data on wetland data, on wetlands, we have a service which is called Wetland Extend. So this is, for example, important, or maybe important for people who are working with the government and need information on the wetland extent for example, carbon storage assessment, or maybe sustainable agricultural use, like rice growing, or also for some conservation purposes, like protecting wildlife corridors. This is a very comprehensive and complex service. It's also very detailed. So it needs some more time to process, like other services, or unlike other services. So as you can see, this gives a detailed map of the water bodies, or basically the content of water in certain land covers. So most of the area is dry, which is the bright yellow here. And there are some water bodies, and then there's especially the wetlands. And the wetlands can be either are detected as temporary wet or as permanent wet. So this is one of several outputs. There's also the output of the water and wetness probability and the wetland frequency. So this is the situation over a given time period. So in the service, when triggering the service, you are indicating a time period over which you want to have the wetlands assessed, and this should be at least 1 year of a time period. So it takes the best images of every month and makes a calculation, an average calculation of those, and produces this as a final map. This service is closely tied to another service we are hosting on the platform, which was also created by Giro. which is the water frequency service. So this gives detailed information on water bodies. For example, for water resource management or water resource assessment, irrigation potentials, and the like. So this output, as you can see here, it shows, so this is the lake Kariba in Zambia. You can see the water fluctuation. So the bright blue color means that there's always water in there. So all month of the year, and the brighter the less bright it gets, or the more brightish blue it gets, the less often there's water. So we'll show the fluctuation of the surface water, and from that you can also derive the seasonality of the water body, or for example also like here at the river, areas prone to seasonal floodings. The service will produce this map, but it will also show you a map of the minimum and the maximum extent, which is basically where this is an aggregation of. So the blue, as I said, the 100% is the minimum extent, and the very bright blue one is the maximum extent. And this is a very powerful tool as the wetness service or the wetland service, which also needs some more processing time or processing storage. So this is a very, very specific service which can provide information on very specific questions. There's another service for water detection, which is a more generic one, and a service where you can very quickly search for water bodies. It's a calculation of an index, so the NDWI. There's actually two services on the platform with which you can create such an image. For one, it's the S2 NDWI, and the other one is the Geoval Indices service. So it's basically a calculation of different bands in an image, and in this one, the water surfaces are especially highlighted. So it's this one shows, for example, the Congo River here, with the tributaries, and also a lake nearby. So this is just a situation of a water body which may be useful for agricultural purposes or for irrigation assessment. But it can also be a generic tool for assessing where a flood has happened. If you know that there was high water somewhere, and you just quickly need to know which places have been inundated. This can be a quick tool to assess this. There are better tools, especially because usually those tools are when there's a flood, there's usually a lot of cloud cover, and therefore you would need radar data which can penetrate the clouds to also detect the water surfaces then. But just for a very quick and generic determination, this is a good tool. And this was an example of the floodings of the Nile River, along the Nile River in Sudan, I think 2 months ago, where you can see that, so there's the Nile River, there's some tributary, and there's on both sides, left and right, there are some major floodings also here, which are displayed quite nicely. But as I said, this was taken very far upstream, downstream from the Nile, so there was probably no bad weather, so the acquisition was good. But when there's cloud cover, obviously this wouldn't show so much, and therefore you need more precise images. Okay, if there are questions now, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will give the ball back to Alessandro, who will show some time series.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you also see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, so there is an additional component that we would like also to present you today, and we call it project monitoring, as well as the EO Wiki, which is reachable from here. From the top bar of the application, you can reach this component. The objective of the project monitoring, it's actually to visualize time series of processing, but the important thing is that the platform enables you to create tasks of processing that will be data driven. So imagine that you want to monitor an area and that you want to on every new acquisition to run some particular service on that area to monitor, for example, some particular index or some particular processor for the burned areas and these kind of things. So the project monitorings enables you to combine services and data together in a data-driven way. As an example of this, imagine that you want to monitor, for example, the Tesla construction. We have created this template which just show a sensitive visualization exploiting the raster service, which is a service that do visualization of different input files, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, and here you can see how every time that there was a new acquisition, there was a new image generated, and actually, is it possible to monitor how the construction progress in time? With respect to this, since this capability of the platform might require some expertise, we recommend you to just get in touch with us in case you would like to have this type of, you would like to exploit this capability. So the channel of communication is of course open. Please let us know if you would like to combine services together with data in a data-driven approach way, and we can support you in set up this systematic processing on the platform. And that's it on my side.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alessandro. Yeah, so I think what we've shown today is the various different elements of the EO4SD lab, highlighting some of the new features and showcasing ways in which the platform can basically create the geospatial content that that users would most like to see. So now, before we open the floor to questions, I guess Norman, if you're happy to go back to the Uganda, I think it was example, it'd be good to see how that is getting on.
Yes, I'll be sharing my screen again. Let me say which one is it. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, all right. So I started this job earlier, 7812, NDVI Uganda 1020. So of course, the platform wasn't completely free at the time, so some of the jobs started a little bit later. But what you see is here that there's one job still, a couple of jobs actually queued. This one here is first in the queue, that one is second in the queue. There are some jobs that are running. This symbol here means that this job is running. You can get some information. If you hover over the information icon here, you see that it's currently processing in step 2 out of 3, and you see when it started. And as soon as it's finished, and we have some of them that are finished, you see the end date. And you see this one was running for 16 minutes. And so this, that, and that, they're complete. So 4 out of 9 are done. So you just click on that job. You get to see the outputs. You see that there are 4 images. You can zoom to the output images by clicking this button, or zoom to the entire group by clicking this button here. And we see that those are these 4 images. The others to the north are still processing right now because they started a little bit later. And you can view one image after the other, or you can toggle them all on at the same time, like this, for example. And one other thing I noticed, we should have selected cloud-free data, cloud-free images. Here you see there are lots of small clouds in between, but okay, I mean, you would, of course, ideally choose imagery without clouds in them. But you can set that when you look for data, you can choose cloud-free images. So that shouldn't be an issue. So if we just choose another map as a background map, you can choose the satellite image as a background map. You can zoom in and see the NDVI image, again with the clouds now, and you can toggle this on and off to see what you see on the satellite image or the background image, and then what you get to see in the NDVI image. But this is already quite a large area that we've processed in the matter of 16 minutes. And another 10 to 15 minutes, you would have the rest of the images that we selected, the remaining 5 images. So the message here is that you can process as something as big as Uganda in a matter of, half an hour tops for the NDVI image of either a single date or multiple dates for an area of that size. So you can imagine if you select larger areas, you can process that within an hour, 2 hours, you get a lot of data. And then you can do this for several months. For example, if you want to check the changes in the vegetation cover during a growing season, then you can do this using this service and all the other services too. I'm just demonstrating that based on this service here because it runs fairly quickly. Okay. Are there any questions on that particular example? And again, if you have any issues, like Alessandro said, the communication channel is open. Any feedback is welcome. Again, we design the services and the platform based on your feedback. The aim is that it has added value for you and your projects, that you really put this data to use. That's the core objective of this this project. So any feedback is welcome.
Norma, may I?
Please.
If you click on top on the EO Wiki tab now.
Pardon? The EO Wiki?
Monitoring, yes. Let's do the things on the fly, even if we're not tried. So, okay, you are using a German language that you can set from the bottom, but you can click on login on the top right. If you just perform login, yes. And you go on the layer which is in the bottom, the layer list. Yes, it's sorry, it's up. You have 60 layers. Yeah,
yes,
60. Yes, if you go there, what you can see now is that all these layers, which has been just generated by the platform, have been already synchronized with the content of the Wiki. So now, for example, Norman would be able to create contents with the layer that he has generated and share those with additional user by creating a map as I shown before, but we have and that's it. Sorry for the how to say for popping up like this.
No issue at all. But did you plan this? Because you took me a little bit by surprise. Now I was a bit jitterish about whether or not this would work. But
Yeah,
okay, good, nice.
I wanted to do like that, so sorry.
Right,
That was
right.
not planned. So
okay, for the audience, are there any questions related to this service sample that you have at this point in time? Back to the portal.
From Günther, Austrian
Yes.
Development Agency. Once you have these maps or these shots, actually, they are photos actually, not so. Can you work with them and apply filters and attach criteria to it, search for certain patterns like vegetation patterns, or can you have various colors augmented and others suppressed and stuff like that? Do I understand that right?
These aren't images in the sense that they are PNGs or bitmaps. These are GIS layers. So if you click on download, you can download them and process them in the in a normal GIS. Or of course you can import that. We have another service that we have is QGIS. So you can run QGIS and run your analysis there. So you can import that into QGIS and run it in the web environment here. Or if you have a local installation of your QGIS or any other GIS, those are standard GeoTIFF files that you can download, and then you have the data. You have full ownership of the data, and you can do with it what you like. You can download it, or you can process it within our lab environment. But you can do all sorts of analysis with it. For patterns and for trends, you need a time series. So you would create more than just a single. This is just a snapshot of one day, of course, but you can create the same NDVI images for different months and then compare what happened over time.
Just a quick follow-up, and so Norman's correct in terms of we have basically made available through the EO4SD lab a number of commonly used EO data processing tools, QGIS being one of them. There's also a program called Snap, which has been designed specifically to work with Copernicus data, but also works with other satellite data. And you can, once you basically load up your images within those applications on the platform, then you can do further analysis, manipulation, generation of further products, whatever way you want. And then once that has been done, you would basically save the products to your own personal directory on the EO4SD lab, and then that will become available through the other means that we've described today. So there are tools there which are allow you to do further analysis and data manipulation, as well as the running of the services at the start to create the content.
So and what YASA is doing with you, or in cooperation with GeoGuild, I think, concerning the rice crop cover, is that making use of all these features here and these pictures?
That is a separate activity. The mapping of the rice will take place in-house, but the mapping of the wetlands is using this service here, this service that we have available. Not this NDVI service, but the wetland mapping service. Okay. So there's the wetland extend service. We're currently running a job for GIZ in the FR region, and we have processed the larger Lake Victoria Basin with this service, using the wetland service to process wetlands for the entire area of interest for your project. So that is making use of the service portfolio that we have on this platform, yes. The actual mapping of the rice is an in-house additional service through the EO Clinic.
So if I came up now with a request for, let me say, oil palm cover instead of rice, for example. Would that be possible to squeeze that out from these?
There is not from the NDVI by itself. I mean, it always depends on how much they stick out, but oil palms will likely not come out as a very distinguishable feature using NDVI. It's possible that if you have a whole time series of NDVI and the oil palms remain green throughout the year, whereas the surrounding area has a more natural fluctuation in vegetation, that it comes out, but that's something one would have to try. So typically, if you want to identify something that has a distinct phenological pattern over the growing season, you could take an NDVI image of, let's say, July, August, and October, and you combine that, and then you have a color-coded image that tells you when each field or each area experience a maximum in greenness and then sometimes a drastic reduction in greenness, specifically when it comes to agricultural fields. You get to see this. But reliably mapping oil palm plantations with just the NDVI is not something that I think is feasible. It depends on the environment, but I don't think that's feasible. There is no dedicated service for that particular use case, but of course that has been done in the past. Many service providers, including ourselves, we have mapped oil palm plantations. So it's something that can be done with remote sensing, but it's not something that we have in this portfolio on EO4SD Lab right now.
So you can't program a certain pattern and then run a search.
Yeah, just to clarify, there is a supervised classification service available on the EO4SD Lab, which complements the basic land cover classification tool that Alexander shown earlier, which basically allows you to, if you have training data, i.e. data of a particular crop type, be it oil palm or whatever it's going to be, you can basically train the images to find similar similar regions. So obviously that requires training data, which means there's a bit more effort required on the user to basically define the service, but that's a service that's available on the platform. So if you have good training data, then that's a service that could be run to do a classification.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for that question. That is a very specific use case, but this platform addresses a number of different use cases. Oftentimes, I mean, we've seen some time series to just get a visual impression of what's happening on the ground, be it in true color and false color, to see vegetation indices, to get an impression of how vegetation changes over time, how water resources change over time, wetlands change over time. That's something that is all covered. Agricultural applications are covered too. Again, if there's a very specific request for a very specific area, then we can look into that and see if there is a service that would inform your needs. Okay, in that case, in case there's no other question, I would hand back to Clive. Clive, do you want to finish off?
Yeah. So basically now, the schedule was that we would have any questions. So is there any questions or comments anyone would like to make on the on what you've seen today or your experience so far with the lab itself? We're very welcome. We're very happy to receive any comments you may have.
And the data sets are finished now. Now all 9 data sets are finished for Uganda. So
yeah, I don't know if
I would have one additional question. Sorry.
Yes, please go ahead.
What would be the procedure in case we come up with a request like this now, oil palm? Let's see how in the past 3 years it developed, and let's have a few nice pictures to document a certain case. How to approach you, how to formulate everything, how to get technical support to squeeze that out from your platform.
Yeah, well, I think well, Norman can probably answer this better than I can, but yeah, I know that you're in close contact with Norman and his guys, so I think the first thing would be probably to sketch out exactly what you want, and then it would be worthwhile to explore the current capabilities on the platform, be it running the services, including the land cover service, which is the supervised classification service I talked about, and then you could interpret the results there and see if they are at the level of accuracy that you would desire. And then I guess the next step would be to talk about potentially supporting you to build a bespoke service, if that would be appropriate, to basically improve the quality of your products. So I think yeah, there probably is elements on the lab itself which would be worth testing out to see if they would basically meet that need, and if not, then we can have a further discussion. Norman, does that sound about right to you, or you have any other comments?
Yes, that sounds about right. So basically, we are two partners in this project. It's GeoVil, that's us, and it's CGI, which is represented by Clive. And CGI is predominantly responsible for the technical implementation of the platform, and GeoVil is predominantly responsible for the user engagement. And as such, we are continuously in touch with users and invite users to provide feedback, and that is exactly the kind of feedback that we're looking for. So to gather your information needs, what you really need to know, and then when we understand what you need to know, we can propose solutions and explain to you how these solutions would get you to the information you need. And we gather all kinds of requirements, not just the things that we can instantly fulfill with the platform. Because we continuously develop the platform, we gather requirements for future implementations. This is an agile development, meaning that we continuously, step by step, improve this platform, add new services, make it more user-friendly, whatever it is. So we gather all this kind of feedback. So please, I'll get in touch with you, and then we can discuss what and where and how you need that information. And we can advise you.
Exciting, thank you.
Very welcome. Gunnar had a question on the future of the platform. So I imagine you would like to know for how long this project is funded, and is that your question, Gunnar?
Can you read minds, Norman? Yeah, that's part of the question. And excuse me if it's like a real basic question I should know, but I have been out of the loop for quite a few weeks or months even. I was wondering how to manage access to the platform in the future. So for example, if we would like to onboard a national partner like a ministry or something like this, how will we get access for our partners, and also how long is the operation funded, as you already mentioned?
Okay, so there's an active development phase, and there's a maintenance phase. It's called a pre-operations phase, and then
extended pre-operations.
Extended pre-operations. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Clive, do you want to take this question?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So as Norman said, we're in an agile development phase at the moment, where we will basically actively improve the platform to meet user needs, and that will continue until the middle of next year, and then we will move into an extended pre-operations period, where the platform will be live and active, and the level of performance will be maintained, but the levels of sort of interaction with the users and will be slightly reduced, and there will be no active development activities. So one of the good things about the platform is that we are designed it to be a pretty autonomous system. So it is an on-demand services. So with a user will be able to go onto the platform and run the services they want with minimal interaction from the technical team. And basically, once you're familiar with that, you can basically utilize the services whatever way you want. So if you're familiar with the platform, then even in the extended pre-operations period, I don't think there will be any particular degradation in the quality of the platform to do what you want it to do. In terms of expanding user base then, so yeah, currently the best thing is to get in contact with either Norman or myself, or directly on the support at EO4SD Lab .NET account, and then send some details of the additional users that you want to basically put onto the platform. And then we can basically develop, and we can get their account set up and give them appropriate level of coins to basically undertake their activities. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, almost everything, except I didn't really get how long once the agile development is done, or you put an end to it, basically, because probably it will never stop otherwise. How long is the maintenance of the finished
12 months,
platform?
12 months. So
12 months.
The current contract we're under, the expectation is, well, the finite endpoint is the middle of 2022. But obviously the expectation is that with a good level of user engagement and a good level of user activity, then this would be the goal is to make this sort of a ongoing sustainable platform, so that basically we will have enough users to justify the continued running of the operations. So if it's successful, then yes, we expect it to go for a number of years, but at the very minimum, it'll be going on until the middle of 2022.
Yes,
right. Thank you very much.
That, and I would like to highlight that, of course, for ESA, what's important to see is how this platform is received. So it's if there's a positive feedback, there's likely an extension of the platform. So if ESA is closely monitoring together with us, of course, the use of the platform, we check how much how often the users sign on, how much they process, how much information they gather, and ESA then asks us, is it information that they deem useful? And if so, if this is a valuable tool to you, then of course we give that feedback to ESA, and they're more likely to incorporate the feedback in terms of additional requirements for services, for better usability of the platform, to fund an extension. So the more useful the platform is to you, the more likely it'll live beyond the already funded period, which is until mid next year, plus another 12 months following that of just basic operation. So it depends a little bit on the users. If we get very positive feedback, then there will likely be some sort of follow-up activity.
Understood. Thank you.
Great. Is there any other questions or comments?